Rural Americans deserve access to the best of what our nation has to offer, especially health care. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families healthy. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
We're back, folks, for the second hour of the More Money Show, and the age-old question is whether money can buy you love. I'm not so sure it can, but it can't hurt, right? And that's why we try to make more money on this show. And so thank you for joining us for our second hour. We have Matt in the New York studio taking care of us, and Connor here in Washington, D.C., where we're based. So thank to both of you for being attentive to the show and making sure that it works, and you guys are real pros. And thank you all for listening to the show. It is a great honor to be in front of this microphone. We're on between 1 and 3 p.m. every Saturday afternoon. Appreciate so much you being with us. Just a quick note, I wanted to remind you to watch the big hockey game tomorrow between Canada and the USA for the gold medal. You know, you cut me, I bleed red, white, and blue, folks. So I'm very much rooting for the US of A in that. It's going to be a great, great, great hockey match. This might be the biggest hockey match since the 1980 the Miracle on Ice, when the United States beat the Soviet Union, the evil empire, in one of the greatest upsets in the history of sports. This wouldn't be, I think that the Canadians are favored in this, but not by a lot. So it's going to be a great, great game. The 2 best teams in the world vying for the gold medal. We're going to get on the phone. By the way, we'll be with you throughout the full hour. We are live. We're in color. In the second half of the show, I will be taking your calls because I learn so much from listening to you all. You all know the More Money hotline number, 1-800-848-9222. That's 1-800-848-9222 or 1-800-848-WABC. Don't call in yet because we won't be taking your calls until after the bottom of the hour. In the meantime, we're going to bring on my good friend and colleague, John Tillman. And by the way, Mr. Producer Matt, let me know when we have John on because I've got so much to discuss with him. So just give me the word when John is available. In the meantime, I mentioned, is he on? John, are you there?
I'm here, Steve. How you doing?
Okay, John, thank you so much for joining. John Tillman and I have been friends and colleagues for, 25 years or so. John Tillman and I both hail from the great, the once great state of Illinois, And so, he was the founder of the Illinois Policy Institute, which is a free market group there. And now he's become kind of a national scholar about politics and the economy, and he has a new book out called The Political Vice, and I do want to talk to you about that book, John, but before I do, say it ain't so, my friend. Are the Chicago Bears going to become the Indiana Bears?
The Indiana Bears, Hammond, Indiana. I was thinking, Steve, that it's kind of coming full circle. The Bears started out in Decatur, Illinois, a small town in downstate Illinois.
Are you serious?
And now we're going to be.
I didn't know that.
The Bears were originally the Decatur Staleys before they moved to Chicago. I don't know what the population of Decatur is, but now they're moving, I think, to Hammond, Indiana. So it's another small town, even though it's in the metro area of Chicago. So they're coming full circle. And right now, the incompetence of Governor Pritzker and Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago, almost guarantees that Indiana's going to steal the Bears away. Who would have thunk it?
Oh, I don't think that's going to, I can't believe the NFL would allow, it will be a total disaster for the National Football League, which is one of the most, the most valuable franchises in sports is the Bears. I mean, they're iconic to Chicago. It can't happen. I mean, they can't happen. They cannot allow this.
I hope sanity returns. It'd be very bizarre to have the Bears coming out of Indiana, but the difference, Steve, this does go to politics, though. The problem, and people ask me all the time, why does this sort of thing happen? The reason these things happen is because when you have a business, like a sports franchise or any business in Illinois or Chicago, when you need to go do something, you have to go bend the knee to the politicians, and they want to become your business partner and extract something from you. Right. Whereas in other places, when you go to do business, the government's not there trying to be your partner. They're going to enforce whatever regulations they have and, of course, charge the proper fees for permitting and all the rest of it that every state and locality has. But they don't expect to be your business partner. And so the Bears are just a little reluctant to have incompetent governance and a governor and a mayor, in this case, as their business partner. And that's part of the problem.
This is what's happening, by the way, in blue cities across America. I mean, it's one of the great tragedies of America today is that blue city and blue state politicians are ruining these places. And I don't know if you're following, John, what is happening in New York City, but it is a catastrophe. I mean, this guy, Mandami, who's got a nice smile, he's well educated, he seems like a likable person. He's incompetent. They couldn't clear the snow. They can't collect the garbage. The mice are getting so big and fat there because the garbage is all over the street. And the city is being ruined by incompetent socialists who talk about the warm embrace of socialism.
And it took 30 days. I mean, we knew this was going to happen, but the speed of his incompetence is a little bit stunning, I have to admit.
So,
and meanwhile, we have sewage pouring into the Potomac in Washington, D.C. It's crazy.
Oh, my God. I got to tell you, John, I'm glad you brought that up. My wife and I went out for, I finally took her out for Valentine's Day because she's always been on my case about you never celebrate Valentine's Day. So we took her out for a nice dinner.
You're such a romantic.
So I take her out, and we live in Potomac, Maryland, right on the river. And when we were driving home on last Saturday night, we passed by the sewer system there. And I swear to God, I said to my wife, honey, did you just fart? She said, no. I said, well, what is that foul odor? She said, that's the Potomac River. It's unbelievable. I mean, this is what happens in Maryland. By the way, I felt like it was in Bangladesh or something like that. I mean, it was disgusting.
Well, that's how disgusting it is. I have to say, though, Steve, not very many husbands, after a nice, lovely, romantic dinner with your wife on Valentine's Day, would ask about whether she passed gas or not. I love that.
Yeah, let's just say that discussion did not end well.
No,
but anyway. All right. Well, tell me. But by the way, we have a New York audience. We're New York based here on WABC, and for the Chicago Bears to leave Soldiers Field and Chicago would be like the New York Yankees moving out of Yankee Stadium. I mean, it just can't happen.
For a long time, obviously, the New York football teams played out of the Meadowlands, and which all made perfect sense because it's a little different there in terms of the way things work. But it's very off-brand, and it would be off-brand for the Yankees to move, obviously. And it would be very off-brand for the Bears to move out of the city of Chicago. It's there. Some franchises can do it. The Kansas City Chiefs are thinking of moving across the river, actually into the state of Kansas. Most people don't realize that Kansas City is actually in Missouri, the major city of Kansas City. So I do think.
Rural Americans deserve access to the best of what our country has to offer, especially health care. Across every state, every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families healthy. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.
Rural Americans deserve access to the best our nation has to offer, especially when it comes to health care. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families' health. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care. Rural Americans deserve access to the best our nation has to offer, especially when it comes to health care. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families' health. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.
You know, New Yorkers have a lot of good things going for it right now with some sports teams and other things, but good governance is not going to be it, and they're going to get the consequences of electing this guy good and hard, I think, unfortunately.
Now, John, you are no longer, you and I have known each other a long time. You're no longer an Illinois resident, are you?
That's correct. I actually resigned as chairman. I was a longtime chairman, the CEO, and then later, when I gave that title up 5 years ago, I was a longtime chairman at Illinois Policy Institute, and I resigned earlier this year because I have changed my residency to Florida, and even and I still have a home in Chicago, a house in Illinois, but I'm definitely out of the state more than 6 months. At some point, you have to say. And I've seen some years have passed. It's time for younger people to fight that fight. And Matt Paprocki and the team at the Illinois Policy Institute
we're not so old, John. Come on,
doing a great job. Yeah, we're still young bucks, at least in our hearts. But
I mean, it does say a lot. The guy who founded the free market. Well, the one free market institute in the state of Illinois, you just get so frustrated by the fact that, you have people like Brandon Johnson who, has been at this total disaster. It seems like a nice guy, but a total disaster. And then you've got a Pritzker. I mean, does Pritzker really want to run for president?
Oh, he is so hungry to be president. This guy is, he's a classic third generation guy who didn't make his own money. I know lots of, very successful people who are second, third generation, and they've made their own bones. Each of the successive generations carves out their own success story. And the way he's trying to carve his success story is through politics, because he's not very good at business, unfortunately. And unfortunately, he's not very good at being a politician. He's had a very gentle press in Illinois, because the corporate press, the legacy press there, is completely aligned with him and are essentially Democratic activists. And Pritzker, there's some things he has some skills, but I cannot imagine when he goes up against very tough fighters for the Democratic primary, where the press will get a little tougher, that he's going to be able to withstand.
I mean, I find it so ironic that two of the sort of front runners, I'm using that in quotes, for the presidential nomination for the Democrats in 2028 are J.B. Pritzker in Illinois, a disaster, and of course Gavin Newsom in California, a total disaster. I mean, are they going to say, we're going to make the country look like Illinois and California? I don't think that's what the American people want.
No, it's a disaster everywhere. And then, as much as we are limited government guys, Steve, we want good government, right? We want it to operate effectively. In New York, there's no better example of, you look at I'll call it bipartisan history of Rudy Giuliani when he was mayor, then followed by Michael Bloomberg. What a great run of competence by two guys from two different parties, not identical philosophies, but both pro-free market, both for the working class and middle class, and not hostile to success. What a track record that was, and look what's happened since then. It just shows you that you can have good governance in a big city or a small city from either side of the aisle, but you have to believe in the American miracle, which is we're founded on the idea of individual freedom, free enterprise, and capitalism. And unfortunately, the current mayors of both Chicago and New York are hostile to all of that.
I'm talking to John Tillman. He was the founder of Illinois Policy Institute. He's one of the top kind of political strategists in the country. He has a new book out called The Political Vice. And by the way, I apologize, John. I'm not going to have a time can you come on again next week?
Absolutely. Next week, I don't know.
Or the week after. We're just going to get you on.
Whichever. Get me back on.
Okay, well, we're going to get you on either next week or the week after because it's been a crazy day because of the tariff issue and all of these things that came up. But in our last few minutes, so we're not going to probably have time to talk about political vice on this show. We'll have you on in a week or two. That's your new book. But in the meantime, tell us, I'm so excited about this idea you were telling me about, John, and I want to be involved because it's so needed as we move towards the 250th anniversary of our great country, which is a kind of what is it, a museum or Hall of Fame for the American entrepreneur.
Exactly. There is no Hall of Fame celebrating American entrepreneurs. There's a Hall of Fame for every sport. As you know, there's a Hall of Fame for burlesque dancers, tow truck drivers, swimmers, and everything in between. There's no Hall of Fame, National Civic Institution Hall of Fame celebrating American entrepreneurs. We call it the Hall of Giants. People can learn about it at hallofgiants.org. And we're debuting with a traveling exhibit whose first stop will be on the National Mall as part of the Great American State Fair celebration this summer.
Fantastic.
And so we're raising money for that. People can go to hallofgiants.org and learn how they can be supportive of it. But our basic point is this. The American miracle, Steve, is that an entrepreneur starts a business with a singular purpose, which is to serve other people well. And when they do so, they're rewarded. And if they do it poorly, they're punished. And it's the greatest service enterprise ever created in America, and we need to champion it and revere it.
And it's true. And by the way, just in our last 2 minutes, you and I have talked so much about this. One of the tragedies of the history books is the history books often, especially the latest generation of history books, they do not treat these giants, like Henry Ford and Rockefeller and, J.P. Morgan as heroes. They treat them as villains.
Yes, that's exactly one of the reasons I was inspired to do this. And I'm thankful to you, Steve, for being on our board of advisors. I really appreciate that. And
I'm so honored to be involved. I think it's so important. We need to make sure people understand the people who built this country, John.
The people who built this country. Think about this. Every single person listening to this show right now, every tangible physical thing in your life exists because at some point an entrepreneur took a risk to start a business to serve you well. And our system is based on permission and consent. When you're in business, you have to sell your customer that you've got a good value proposition, and they say, yes, you've convinced me, I give you money. You have this beautiful consenting and persuasion-based transaction. Your socialist mayor there in New York, or the one we have in Chicago, they like coercion. They like force and forcing the citizens to submit to the edicts they
and by the way, they've never built anything themselves.
No, it's not coincidental to me that Bernie Sanders, AOC, your mayor, the mayor of Chicago, none of them have ever built a private enterprise where you have to serve other people well and where there's direct and immediate accountability.
Yeah, it's a tragedy. Well, John, I'm so excited about what you're doing. I need to have you on regularly as we approach July 4th, the 250th anniversary of our country, because the story of America really, John, is not just the story of, George Washington and James Madison and Abraham Lincoln, but it's also the story of the great, great titans of commerce who built this country.
And solved all of our great challenges in a civil society. It's amazing. It's a miracle.
Yeah. Okay, John Tillman, thank you so much for joining. We'll have you on in the next couple of weeks because I want to hear about the book, The Political Vice. Is that available yet?
It's just going to say available at all your best book sellers, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, any place you can buy books. You can get it now. It's in pre-order. It debuts formally on March 3rd, but it's available for pre-order right now.
Fantastic. John Tillman, thank you so much. You're a national asset as well. Folks, we'll be right back. This is the More Money Show.
Thanks for listening to More Money with Steve Moore. You can hear More Money with Steve Moore Saturday afternoons at 1. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder,
what the heck is going on here?
Rural Americans deserve access to the best our nation has to offer, especially when it comes to health care. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families' health. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.